right, here we go. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's really a pleasure to be offering this special event today, February 1st, here at APEX Events. As you know, my name is Lynn Vartan, and I'm the director of this series. And this event today is called Meet the Business Building. So what does that mean, Meet the Business Building? Well, many of you probably are aware we have a new addition to campus going up right now as we speak. You can see it happening. And one of the things that we wanted to do with APEX Events is really sort of spotlight that. I know that in previous institutions that I've been at, I've been a part of a little bit of getting to know new buildings, and just it's so amazing and fascinating how much goes into that. From the design process, from the impact on different academic programs, to the impact on campus, to what it does to make the feel of the campus change. So we wanted to take some time to spotlight that process because it doesn't happen all the time. So I wanted to start by saying a thank you so much to the panel of guests that we have today. This is far and away above and beyond their daily schedule to take the time to really come and share all of the different parts that they have added to this process. So thank you so much to all of you. I'd like to just start by maybe having the panel introduce themselves, and maybe we can start on the far end and come back towards me.
All right, my name is Brian Macbeth. I'm the Senior Project Manager over the construction. I work with Layton Construction, and been in the industry for about 18 years, and just excited to be down here on campus. This is my first experience building on SUU's campus, and we're enjoying the experience and the teamwork that we're experiencing with everybody on this board.
My name is Chad Nielsen. I'm with MHTN Architects, and I'm the project executive for the design team on this project. MHTN has been on campus with other projects such as your science building addition and some other studies that we've done, but we really enjoy being here on SUU's campus, and we've really enjoyed working with the steering committee on this business building.
My name is Tiger Funk. I'm the Executive Director for Facilities Management here at SUU. I'm working on my 12th year on campus, and this project has been quite remarkable in the efficiency at which it's come together, and working with Layton and MHTN has really been a pleasure.
Mary Pearson, I'm the Dean of the School of Business, been working on this project for about a year and a half, and just like the rest of these folks, it's been really a pleasure to work with some great people. I think we've really come together and been able to make some decisions, some unanimous decisions without a whole lot of problems in deciding what we want to have in this new building. So it's been a pleasure to be part of this group.
Greg Powell, I teach management in the School of Business, and Mary and I attended classes, got our undergraduate degrees in the current building that we're in when it wasn't all that old. And so to see this new project come out of the ground has been really exciting. It's been a lot of fun to be involved.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and welcome to all of you. The first topic we'd like to talk about is what drives a new building on campus. What's the need? How does that come to be? Where do we make that decision, and what drives the need for the new building?
Oh, go ahead.
I think with our current building, I think one of the needs why we needed a new building is some of the there's some structural things about the building that needed to be improved. One of those, our elevator is not ADA approved. We also have a need for better technology in our new building. We also have some code-related issues that have made it so we need to which warrant a new building. But in addition to that, in the School of Business, just within the last 5 years, we've increased in size with about 40% additional students. So I think that also has warranted this new building, and we're absolutely thrilled to be able to have a new building for our students to study in.
I'll just add, in addition to that, my understanding is back in the 70s when our current building was built, that the funding, when it finally was all said and done, the funding was cut by a significant amount. And we lost a lot of the spaces that were in the original plans. And the building basically ended up being nothing but hallways and classrooms and offices with no meeting and greeting space and communication space. In today's modern, whether it's an educational building or certainly in the corporate world, in the business setting, when you want people to communicate and to have line of sight with each other, you build a building to shape the culture, or at least those two certainly work together. And so our current building is just at odds with what we'd like to try to achieve that way. And as you'll see from the plans today, this building creates a lot of great greeting space and meeting space, both closed door opportunities, small gathering spaces for students, faculty, and just larger hallways and places where people can see one another and communicate with one another. This building is a significant improvement for our culture, in addition to the things that were mentioned.
Great. And then did you also have some ideas? I know that in terms of the vision for the future of the business program and pedagogically, there are some changes that this building is really going to help make come to fruition. Is there anything you'd like to talk about with that vision for the future?
Yes, there's a lot of things like that. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and go to our
that's great.
Slides that we have here that go right in line with what you've been talking about. So the new, is that our next slide? I guess.
This one's next, and this is coming.
I'm going to go, if we already looked at these. I'm going to start here. Of course, this is the south view of the business building. But when Lynn asked the question about change in pedagogy and the way that students learn, the offerings that we have in the School of Business has changed a lot over the last 10, 15 years. And this picture that you're looking at right now is a picture of a large tiered lecture hall where we'll be able to have about 120 students in that lecture hall. We have currently in the School of Business, we have an entrepreneurship speaker series, which about a year and a half ago started with 16 students that were enrolled in that course. And now this last speaker that we had on Tuesday had about 120 students there to listen to this successful businessman in the state of Utah. So things have changed a lot, and we're having more speaker series similar to this one, where students can really gain and glean off of the experience of professionals. So this space here will be able to provide us to continue with that lecture series and be able to expand that a little more. This is bouncing off of what Greg said. He said, students they enjoy places where they can talk and collaborate and mix and mingle with each other. And that is, I think, in our current building, one of the things that the students, that we don't have, a different way of learning. And this space here, you can see, is a lot more inviting, and we'll have places for students to gather and talk and be able to socialize about things that are happening on campus. Off to the left, the picture off to the left shows some of our group study rooms. And that's something also that's changed a lot in how we teach our courses. We do a lot more projects that are team-based to help prepare our students for the business environment, the business world, where they'll be working with groups of people. So these are study rooms that you can see off to the left on this slide that will allow students, we'll have 8 of those in this new building that allow students to work in groups and on projects. This, another change in how we teach. This space here is a rendering of our entrepreneurship lab in the new business building. We, about not quite 2 years ago, really started ramping up our entrepreneurship program here at SUU. And thanks to a generous donation, we're able to have, this will be the Larry H. and Gail Miller Entrepreneurship Lab, and that's a picture of them in the background. In this space, students will be able to come together, be able to talk about business ideas, work out business plans, do market analysis, and again, be able to be mentored by professionals, run business ideas past them, and this space will be a dedicated space for that. This will be located on the northeast corner of the business building. So again, another change in how we deliver our education. This picture, a few days ago, I was lucky enough to be in a helicopter with our aviation folks. And it just kind of shows how the business building and how it aligns with some of the other buildings here on campus. I wanted to touch on some numbers here, and again, why this building is really important. Just 5 years ago, in 2012, we had 764 students in the School of Business. And most recent number, we had 1,093. That's about 39%, which is about a 40% growth in the last 5 years. We're thrilled about that. We know that we have a wonderful program and programs in the School of Business, and know that we're going to continue to grow. So there's another reason why this is something that's very much needed. I wanted to take just a minute to tout a couple of things that we have going on. We have some nationally recognized programs in the School of Business. We've been ranked in the top 100 for our online MBA and in the top 50 for our Masters of Accountancy program. I believe the online management program, Greg, was in the top 20.
That's right.
Programs by U.S. News. And then we rank nationally with our PBL competition. I saw Aaron here. He's being spotlighted here. Aaron Templin, he's one of our academic advisors, but also a student. One of our students, and represented us well at our PBL competition, took first in some of those areas in that competition. I also wanted to just take a minute. I think one of the things that we are happy and proud about is our employment placement rate. Overall in the School of Business, we have about an 85% placement rate. And we think with the addition of these new programs that we have in this new building, we're going to be able to increase that even further. So just a couple of things for us to look at. We're very high on experiential education. I think these spaces in this new building will allow that. We'll have an investment lab that will provide students a better opportunity to teleconference and be able to meet with folks that are involved in the Investment Scholars Group. We'll have, again, this entrepreneurship center that will also increase our mentoring and employment job opportunities. So just a couple of things there. I'm going to go forward a little faster here so Greg has a few minutes to talk about, to add to what I have to say. In the School of Business, about half of our students have internships. And we know that we'll be increasing that number significantly over the next 4 to 5 years. And again, that will give the students, through the different programs and things that they're involved with in their educational process, will be able to increase their opportunity to obtain an internship before graduation. Anything you want to add to some of our programs? I've got some other highlights on there, but
No, I think
Greg?
you covered it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just a couple of highlights with our entrepreneurship lab. I'm going to go ahead and go forward because I just want to leave time for one last little point. In the next year, we're just thrilled about having a business analytics program. The Associate Dean, Kim Kraft, he's here. He's been working tirelessly on this proposal. But there's a great need for analytics, and that'll be housed in the School of Business, and it'll start fresh in this new building. New building will be its first stopping place for a master's in business analytics and an undergraduate economics degree with an emphasis in analytics, as well as an emphasis in analytics in both of our master's degree programs, and the Master's of Accountancy and the MBA. In the past 10 years, there have been over 180 analytics programs added in universities across the United States. We're happy to be among those. We know that it's in a degree that's in great demand. Starting salaries, the average starting salary for a student with an analytics degree is about $65,000, and has an increase up to about $85,000 in the first 5 years, and a projection to be over $100,000 in the next 2 or 3 years, 5 years experience. So we're excited to provide that opportunity for our students. And again, this new building will be the house of the first business analytics students that will go through that program.
That's so exciting to sort of be on the forefront and on the cutting edge in that way. That's fantastic. And there's some really interesting art going in the building, from what I understand.
Yeah, a couple things I wanted to just mention about that. What you're looking at here is some material provided to us by the winner of our art competition, a man by the name of Gordon Huther. When you have a state-funded building in the state of Utah, 1%, it's the law that 1% of those funds, of the state funds, need to go into artwork. Now, what type of artwork? Well, that's the decision of the committee. And so what we did is that an RFP was put out, and we had just under 200, believe it or not, artists that applied. It was a completely online process. So they had the opportunity to do a little write-up if they wanted to, and or submit up to six photographs or even films, videotape of their previous artwork, and tell us about what their concept was. So we sat down independently at our computers and sifted through 190 applications. I think we narrowed it down to about 25 or 30. Then we got together as a group in this building and said, okay, we can't have that many come on campus. So we narrowed it down to about, I think was it 5 or half a dozen, and invited them to come to campus to show us their stuff. And we saw some really interesting presentations. And then Gordon Huther out of Napa, California showed up with his presentation with this kind of depiction that you can see, which is a series of glass panels. There's about 30 odd of them that will hang kind of in the skylight area, kind of from the second floor, and you'll be able to see it from the first floor as well. And that glass is coated with something called dichroic film. And what dichroic film does is it makes kind of like, gives you kind of a prism effect. So when light hits that piece of glass, depending upon how bright it is or the angle or whatnot, and as the sun moves, the effect that it will give you, the colors that come out of that will change as the day goes on into the evening, right, with artificial light. You'll also notice kind of cut down the middle of these is something reminiscent of like a slot canyon or like a river, like you might find or in the Narrows. You might see that was reminiscent of the Narrows. And quite frankly, I think our committee, once we saw this presentation, said, that's it. This guy's nailed it. We had some that were kind of similar to this, that some other folks that presented artistic works that kind of hung in the space, but this guy we thought just crushed it, and it was just unanimous. We said, Gordon's our man. And so that's what this is going to look like. Now, in addition to what you're seeing here, to Gordon's presentation, let me give us one other slide. And, oops, sorry, wrong direction. One other view. Yeah, that's what it will look like. That's what Gordon's work will look like from the first floor. But in addition to that, you might be wondering, what else is going to go on all the other walls there? Well, that conversation is a slightly different one. That refers to branding and some of the other things that we're in the midst of. We don't have any graphics or visuals for you, but we've got some great discussion going on, and this will not be the only quote-unquote art that you'll see in the building. There will be many other things. A marvelous donor wall. I just saw Janet, a marvelous donor wall that lists all of the folks that were kind enough to donate to this building, including Dixie Nan Levitt and many other more minor donors that will be listed there. But in addition to that, we've got some great, some of our graduates over the years that we want to highlight with some of their stories, whether they become successful in the corporate world or as entrepreneurs. We'll be highlighting them, and we've got some other great graphical images and whatnot. We haven't got all that worked out yet, but again, this won't be the only piece of art in the building, but we're very excited about Gordon and about this installation. I think it's really going to add a lot. And again, it just spoke Southern Utah to us, and so we thought, this is the guy, he's just nailed it. Anyhow, it's Gordon.
I am going to add to that, though.
Yeah, please.
I always get a question when I show this image. People say, is it really going to be blue and purple in there? And the answer to that, no. When we saw this, it's this kind of translucent glass, and it takes on more of a gold sheen to it. And when the light hits it, I think that's what Greg was saying, throughout the day, when the light hits it, it reflects off many different colors. But it doesn't look purple and blue. So just to lay that at ease, because I have had that question probably 50 times.
Yeah, a couple of the proposals used dichroic film, and so they brought a couple of these folks brought pieces of that glass with the film, and they would show us. They'd walk around the room and hold it by the window and show us how it would become just like Mary described, and it's pretty impressive. It's going to look. I promise you, it's going to look much better than the colors that you see here.
Well, that's very exciting. I'm excited to learn about that. Also, it's new information to me about the mandatory art in university buildings, state buildings. That's fascinating. So, well, we'd like to move on to another topic now, and that would be in the facilities realm of things. And so, Tiger, if you wouldn't mind telling us about what informs the location of a new building. How do you decide where it goes and all of just the multitude of logistics involved in that?
Sure. Thank you, Lynn. There are a lot of logistics involved, and this project was no exception. There's several things that we work through as we talk about where will a building be located, and And the three primary things are, where do we have available space on campus? Second, what would be the relationship to the other buildings in the area? And then also, what kinds of utilities do we have available? Because the utilities can be a significant expense if you have to extend them from a remote location. You'll see on the slide here, we've got the three orange squares. These were the three locations that were talked about for the location of the new business building. Number one there, just east of the PE building in that parking lot. Number two is the chosen location, but there in the Sharwin-Smith parking lot. And then also number three, you can see is located on top of the current multipurpose building. So each one of these areas presented itself as an opportunity. First of all, parking lots, it's often said that parking lots are just placeholders for new buildings. So, this is something that becomes a very easy site. There's not a whole lot of site preparation that has to happen. Most buildings want a flat location, and so that's why parking lots get targeted. Also, on a campus, the general design philosophy is to push your parking to the outer perimeter and keep the core of campus as really a pedestrian zone. And so by using the internal parking lots for new buildings, it helps to promote that philosophy. Lawn panels become another fairly obvious place to place buildings. We did not identify any green space for the potential location of this building, and that was because we really look at this in kind of a holistic manner and understand. But one of the things to consider with chewing up lawn panels or open turf is we really try to maintain a balance of green space on campus with hard space, and I'm sure many will appreciate the value that green space brings to a campus through the trees and the grass and shrubbery, and it really helps to soften a campus. It makes a campus much more inviting. There's some environmental effects. It helps to reduce the heat island effect, or basically it helps to cool the campus. Trees, of course, have their obvious benefits with providing shade and their role in the whole ecosystem. So we have to be very careful about taking green space off of campus. But again, lawn panels become a potential space for buildings. And then, of course, like location 3 indicates here, sometimes to raise an old building and put the new building in its place is the answer. And this is typically a pretty complex solution. First of all, there's a lot of expense in tearing down old buildings, and while they all have their lifespan, we try to extend that as long as possible. There's also the challenges of what do you do with the people that are in that building until the new building is built, and that means that we've got to have enough square footage on campus or through leased space to create some surge area for the relocation of different departments, offices, classrooms, things like that for often a year to 2 years. Some other things that we think about when we're siting a building is what's the relationship of the new building to the existing buildings that it's near. Neighboring buildings should complement each other, and by this I mean in their size, their direction of orientation. You don't typically want the front of one building facing the back of another building. And and if you think about what are some of the service elements of a building, you have things like loading docks or dumpsters or service entrances that just don't make a great view out the front of an adjacent building. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. let's see. Also, many campuses have what we call districts, or areas where you put like functions with together. And so some common examples of that are creating like an athletic district, an academic district, a housing district, and you can begin to see some of those things on SUU's campus. We have all of our housing, dormitories. They don't like me to call them dorms, but you know what I'm talking about. All of our housing is clustered together. Most of our athletic functions are on the west end of campus. Our academic function on campus has its own core. So we try to respect that and site buildings accordingly. Then one other thing that ties to the relationship of other buildings is the concept of efficiencies, and are there things that an existing building and a new building can share? And these are things like sidewalks and site lighting, landscape pedestrian pathways, things like drop-off zones. And if you've already got those established for one building and you place a new building next to it with the proper orientation, can some of those things be shared? And it just makes for a more efficient master layout on campus. And then the last thing that we look at as we try to site a building are utility locations. And hopefully you can see, you can see the colored lines on this map. This depicts all of the utilities that we have on campus. Most of them, if not all of them, are underground, and we do that intentionally so that they don't become an eyesore on campus. But the university has its own natural gas distribution system, its own electrical distribution system, sewer systems, water systems, steam and condensate are all underground. So all of these things have to be considered when we site a building, so that first of all we don't get in our own way. And by that I mean we don't want to put a building in a place where we have to relocate a lot of utilities to get them out of the way so we can put in a basement or something like that. The other thing that we want to make sure that we're doing is understanding where those utilities are, so that we can we don't have to extend them an inordinate amount in order to serve the new building, because underground utilities can be many thousands of dollars per lineal foot, and so this adds up very, very quickly. It's something that is often a hard sell because people don't appreciate utilities. You know, it's really out of sight, out of mind, and so it's difficult to get donors to come to a project because we may have a lot of utility expenses. Nobody wants their name on a pipe, right? So anyway, many things to consider there. This next slide shows the utility tunnels on campus. Many of our utilities are within tunnels, and this helps to promote serviceability and replacement and so again, if you have to extend utilities that are directly buried in the ground, that's one thing. But if you have to extend a utility tunnel, that increases the cost even that much more. So you can see in location 2, that is the site of the new business building as it's coming up. It's in very close proximity to a couple of utility tunnels. We'll be serving this building from the west. You see the tunnel that goes north from the heat plant there. So we're putting an extension on that tunnel which runs to the east. It's relatively short, maybe about a 50 or 60 foot extension, so not too far there. If we go back here to some of these others, and I apologize, it's difficult to see, but we also, this location is really literally wrapped with with utilities and nothing cutting across the center of it. So that really was an ideal location. We've got natural gas, although we're not using it in this building, but natural gas is right on the north border. Our medium voltage electric, which is electrical distribution for campus, is right on the south side of this building. Water and sewer run right on the very west edge of the building. And so from a utility location, or from a utility standpoint, this location made the most sense. And then, you know, just to summarize the three locations over on number one, while we had a great footprint there was not a lot of good utilities, and also it continues to keep parking on the internal portion of campus, and so it doesn't follow that rule of pushing parking to the perimeter. Location 3 is of course where the multipurpose building is. We don't have the facilities yet to replace the multipurpose building, and so that really was fairly quickly eliminated. There's pretty good utilities over by the multipurpose building, but I think there's also some relationship issues over there where the business building certainly fits and in its relationship to the other adjacent buildings over on the north side of the Sharwin Smith Center. I imagine Chad's going to talk a little bit about some of the traffic flow and creating gateways and things like that, so I won't get into that, but that's the essence of how we decide where a building goes on campus.
Thank you so much, Tiger. It seems like, based on what you've just said, that as far as building locations goes, it was a pretty easy decision between the three. Would you say it was a fairly easy one?
In hindsight, it was easy, but it was, you know, it's even though it seems very obvious at the onset, Lynn, we still go through the process because it's very important to think these things through. The last thing you want is to invoke an unforeseen cost or something like that to these projects, and you can't move a building. So once this is decided, it's something that becomes really a legacy decision for the university for many decades, long beyond when I'm gone.
Well, that's so interesting. And now we'd love to move on to the design part. This is something that I think many of us know the least about. So, Chad, if you wouldn't mind, I'm really excited to know about how that process evolved and whatever you'd like to tell us about it.
You bet. Thank you. I think there is a bit of a mystery about how the design of a building comes about. It's kind of not something that's obvious, like the construction of a building that's taking place. And it starts with a committee, a steering committee. These three have been on that steering committee. And I love the fact that you guys were the ones selling the architecture of the building, the design of the building, and it wasn't me. So you can see that through this process, there is great buy-in by all of the participants on this committee, which are representing the School of Business. And so we start this process with this committee by understanding what is the vision, and Mary has outlined a lot of those points of the vision for the business school. And I remember in our early conversations talking about who are we building this building for, and it really came down to we're building it for the students of SUU. They are the patrons, they are the users, they will be the ones that are in the classes and learning and gaining knowledge. And what will that environment be like to help them? How will it help recruit students to SUU, and faculty for that matter? Then the discussion went to how can the faculty best serve the students? And so those were kind of the primary drivers during what we call the programming phase, where we outline all of the vision and the needs and the wants and everything that needs to go into this building. And we gather all that information and we put it into what we call a program document. Many of you have probably never seen this document, but this is a document that really serves as the roadmap through the design process. Everything that we do in the design of the building, we check against all of the decisions that have been made in the programming stage by the steering committee to make sure that it is following and addressing those initial points that we outlined as serving the students. And so this is a great tool that we use throughout the design process, not only to inform what we're trying to convey in those spaces, but all of the minor details that will, get down to the audio-visual equipment. How will that serve the classroom spaces? What will the classroom spaces be like? Will they be flexible? Will they be a tiered seating classroom? So all of that is defined at this stage. Then we take that and couple that with all of the points that Tiger mentioned about the site and its surroundings and what's going on around this site. This is an example of an early study 5 or 6 years ago of just what would be some concept renderings for a business building. This is an example of not going through the process. These weren't intended to be the design of the building, but just to generate some interest, maybe some fundraising opportunities. And the building that you'll see that's being constructed is very different, having gone through the process of programming and with the steering committee and with the vision in mind for the School of Business. So the site that Tiger mentioned, we're looking at right here, and there are many influences. A lot of them have to do with the pedestrian traffic. There's the large east parking lot across from University Avenue, where the majority of the students park, and they approach campus from the north to the south. And this building is the gateway as they come across that street, welcoming them to the campus. It's denoting that this is an institution of higher learning, higher education, as you come across that street and enter the campus proper. There are other buildings that surround this building that are mostly a 2-story level building. So you'll notice the new building for the business school is also a 2-story building that harmonizes with its surroundings. There's also the flow of traffic from the library walk, moving from south to north. There's the traffic that filters from the east towards the building, and really that funnels to and presents itself to a front entrance that's really located on the east side of the building. But all of these influences start to shape and inform how the building's going to sit on the site. What will this building look like as you drive by from the University Avenue, from the east or from the west? It's intentionally set forward on the site. It is a landmark there on the avenue. It grabs your attention. It shows the growth and the prosperity of SUU and how it's advancing forward with new buildings, new technology, growth, and so it's a very prominent location on the site. We also consider the solar patterns, how the south sun can benefit this building, how we can take advantage of northern light that's not direct sunlight into the building, but there's a great opportunity for us to respond to some of those elements that are natural and that we want to capture as part of the building. The Sharwin Smith Student Center is a building with many front doors, and we wanted to make sure we didn't bury that building behind this building. We wanted to make sure that as you come from the north to the south, that there are great views back to the Sharwin Smith Center, and that those doors are still very identifiable. So we start to work on the organization. How does the pedagogy, how does the faculty, the students, how do they move through the building? How do they use the building? And how do we organize those systems? And we came up with this concept of classrooms stacking on the west side of the building on both levels, and then the administration wings being on the east side, And to the point Greg was making about the slot canyon down the middle, that was the common area that brings these two entities together, which we've kind of dubbed the Wall Street. It has a couple of connotations: the Wall Street at Bryce Canyon National Park, and then of course the business connotation of Wall Street. And that was a driver that really helped organize and move forward the design process. At the south end of the building, we looked for opportunities to widen out and channel in the light, channel in opportunities from the outside to the interior of the building. And that led us to form an outdoor south-facing classroom space or garden space or patio space. It can have multiple uses, but it's going to provide a very nice space on campus for all of the university students and faculty to enjoy. And throughout the year, maybe even the winter time with the south facing, it can still be very enjoyable, especially this year. So taking all of those influences, combining those into the project is the process that we go through. So this is the rendering that you've all seen of the business building with the outdoor spaces as part of that. And this is in quite a contrast to those previous early on more fundraising images that I had shown previously. As we dial in all of the aesthetics of the exterior and the interior, we have to then move into a process which we prepare for construction documentation that we can then work with the general contractor to get the building built. So we start to add detail of how you would circulate through the building, where the classrooms occur, how the layout of those classrooms happen, and then continue to lay on the dimensions and all of the tolerances that are needed to get that project built. We orchestrate many engineers in this process. There are civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, audio-visual, geotechnical. There are an array of engineers that are all part of this team working together towards fulfilling the vision of this project. And so these are the construction documents that help Brian and his team in building the project. But this starts to show all of those building systems that get overlaid and coordinated into the entire building so that it all functions properly. And as you've probably guessed, this is a custom building. You know, it's not a cookie cutter building that has been pulled off the shelf and recycled for the use for this purpose. It is a custom process to address and meet the needs of the business school, of the university, and really to fulfill their dream of this project. So.
Thank you so much. That's fascinating. I love seeing, this is my first time seeing the actual shape and the layout, the interior, and I love the Wall Street concept, and I can't wait to get inside. Mm-hmm. And so with the time that's left, we'd love to hear about the construction process and just anything that you can tell us about that, if Brian, if you have the time for that.
All right, so it's great to be here. I know it was talked about that the design process sometimes isn't the well-known aspect, but I think there's also a lot of stuff that happens prior to construction on the contractor side that sometimes not everybody gets to see. As a contractor, our goal is to look at how can we provide the best cost, quality, and schedule for the project. Those are our goals, and that's what we base our success on. Is the project is successful if we're able to meet those three criteria. A little interesting note is we were actually brought on to the project shortly after this document that Chad was talked about, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So our goal, and also another one of our success and the things that we look at constantly, is how can we drive up the value of this project? How can we provide more value for SUU and the students that are going to be in this building, but yet still drive down the cost? It's a tricky slope. You can obviously go cheap at something, and then it provides little value. So we're constantly looking at that from our perspective, working with the architect to find the best balance that gives you as a campus and also you as students the best value for your money. So just to kind of highlight a few things, I think most of us are familiar with the traditional system. That is, the architect works with the owner, they come up with a set of drawings, and then they send it out for bid. There's some problems that can occur in that, especially with an economy like we have currently, where the market is constantly increasing in the cost of subcontractor work. Under that scenario, we'll go a little bit more and describe that, but there's also what we currently have as our contract right now as a construction manager general contractor. What that means is we're brought in early. As I stated, we were brought in shortly after the program was finished, and we're brought in to help control costs, to help provide estimates so that we can give the architect and the owner, which is SUU and the state of Utah, real-time information that we're seeing in the industry. What this does is it helps to provide the architect the ability to know where they're at with their costs so that they're designing the building only once. It's a lot of wasted time and cost in an old style traditional method to design the building only to find out you're $2 million over budget and you've got to go back and now redesign it. That's a waste of time and also of money. Another method that we're not really going to talk about too much is design build. These are our three different types of contracting methods that we mostly deal with in the industry. And as you can see here, the traditional method is a longer drawn out process. You've also got the method that we're under, which is the CMGC, or Construction Manager General Contractor, which greatly shortens the duration of the project and gets the building started sooner and gets the building turned over and into use sooner. Since we're in a business setting here for this, we brought a chart or a graph that kind of demonstrates the importance of getting in early on the design process. As you can see, the method that we're doing right now is an integrated process, as we talk about right here. This integrated process, if you look at the top, gives us the ability to control costs. Obviously, as the project moves forward, costs and the ability to make change increase. As you see in the traditional method, the cost of changes start to become more costly and don't bring value to the project. One of the examples that I brought is, as we're working with MHTN and the owner, MHTN is constantly downloading to us their 3D model. With that 3D model, we're actually able to input it into our systems and come up with real-time estimates based on the quantities and everything that are being seen. As you can see here, all of the items in blue are identified on this model right now as areas where we have glass. You can see over here, there's square footages, and those square footages tie back to our cost per square foot that we're giving to those values. This gives us the ability to collaborate as a team, to look at it and go, yeah, that's what we're all seeing. We're all seeing about that much square footage. Or it gives us the ability, MHTN looks at it and says, hey, wait a minute, that's a lot more square footage than we're planning. Let's look through this a little more and see if we're all on the same page. What we're really trying to do is to give the right dollar amounts to everything so that the project gets the value where it needs it and not in wasted areas. Quick demonstration here. In a traditional method, like I said, you would have one estimate and that would be the final cost. As you can see, it's maybe a little hard to see up here. We have 14 estimates that we provided through the design process before we even started construction. From the graph at the bottom, you can see we started out at odds. This was our budget down here, and this is where we came in on our first estimate. That gave us the ability to work with the architect and with SUU to try to bring the design and the cost to within where we needed to be. As you can see, there was a few changes. The budget increased a little bit due to some requests, but the interesting thing to note is as we got closer to the end, you can see that through this method, we were actually able to bring the project in budget. In fact, on this, you'll see that we actually brought the cost of construction down. GMP is a guaranteed maximum price. Our industry, we speak in a lot of acronyms. But in the end, this approach was able to save SUU and the state money in the process. And as a contractor and a construction manager, that's where we find our joy is being able to work with the team in a collaborative process and actually bring the project in under budget and bring more value to the project. I brought a few slides, just a few pictures. What you're seeing here is shortly after the asphalt was taken off, and the soil conditions out there are not the greatest. Because of that, we had to do a rammed aggregate pier, which some may be familiar with the word geopier. There's about 150 of these piers. And you can see right here, this round and that round, those are two of the piers. Those go down about 25 feet in the ground, and those 150 are basically supporting the foundation system that is holding this whole building up. So that's just a little interesting fact that you probably don't see as you're seeing it from the sidelines. From there, obviously, we're working on the foundations and the footings and everything to get those up, and then the steel starts. As you look at the building, as you're walking right now, you're seeing a lot of the steel is already done, and we're starting to basically frame in the building now. Some innovations that we have talked about is what you're seeing right here are actually the roof joists and the roof deck. Working with the steel erector, we were able to come up with a solution that would be more safe and more time efficient to basically put all of the roof joists and the deck in place, and then we basically, as you can see right here, oops, I went the wrong button. They are flying in a big, huge section of roof at one time. It's also nice for you as the people walking by, you get to see a dramatic change really quick. From there, like I said, we're working on exteriors, getting the exterior studs up, the exterior sheathing. The inside of the building right now, there's a lot of interior framing going on. You're also seeing the ductwork that will provide all the HVAC, or the heating and venting and air conditioning in the building. And you're starting to see some of the drain lines that will provide the roof drains to get rid of the water off of the roof and out through the building. But just a little quick glimpse into where we're currently at with the project and the process getting there from the contractor standpoint.
Thank you so much. I had no idea that there were all those the piers underneath. That is really I've learned so much today. So as you walk by this building and you get a real chance to kind of know and understand why it's oriented the way it is, and looking forward to those outdoor spaces and all the collaborative indoor spaces and the impact that it's going to have on not only the business school, but on our entire university. Again, just thank you so much to all of you for sharing your expertise and being so generous with your time today. I learned a ton, and I am so excited about the building and what it's going to bring to SUU. So thank you so much, everyone. We will look forward to seeing you all back next week.
Sorry, I'm going to stop. I just have to say one last thing, because the reason why we're here today to have this, the reason why we even have this building is a lot because of our previous dean, Carl Templin, and his work in making a case that it was time for us to have a building, an improved space for our students to be able to learn and become educated. And he's here today, so I just wanted to acknowledge that part of a large part of why we're here is because of his efforts. So.
Well, that's a round of applause to Dean Templin and to the whole group. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here, and we will look forward to seeing you back next week, where we have Emily Grassley, a scientist and YouTube sensation, talking about the value of curiosity. Thanks so much, everyone.